Friday morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on a fantastic Friday. One of the reasons it's fantastic is that we have missed the weather for this weekend. I'm telling you, I'm so thankful that we're not going to get the freezing rain that they have predicted. But we do want to pray for our neighbors up north who are still in the crosshairs. But remember, this Sunday morning, 8:30, 11 o'clock worship, 9:45 Bible study. Sunday night, we've got our potluck supper at 5 and business meeting at 5:30. So come and join us for that. Right now, we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and we're picking up in verse 24. And these are verses for all of us. Listen to what he says. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. Now, understand, he's talking about the Olympic Games, the Isthmian Games. Big deal back in those days. The runners would run, and understand that in order for them to run, they had to sign an oath saying that they had trained and that they had eaten right and that they were not cheating. They had made all these commitments to running the race, and most of them had been training for this all of their lives, training hard. And he says, all who run that race, they run trying to receive the prize, but only one does. Only one person can win the prize. Now, I want you to understand something. Their prize was a wreath. That's all it was. But it was the honor of receiving that wreath, something they would wear on their heads. He said, but Paul says, look, we each need to run in such a way that you may obtain it. Well, understand that means giving it all that you've got. But you know as well as I do, Paul is not talking about running a physical race. He's talking about running a spiritual race. Now look what he says. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. They watch what they eat. They do the right things. They make sure they're living the life that they should. And he says, now they do it to obtain a perishable crown. But we for an imperishable crown. We're not looking for a wreath to put on our heads. We're not looking for crowns to wear. We're looking for that forgiveness of sin that comes through faith in Jesus Christ. We're talking about the promise of heaven for an eternity, being in the presence of God. Even so, now we're running so that we have the presence of God, that abundant life that Jesus promised today. He says, therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty, not doubting, not worrying, am I doing the right thing? I do what I know that God has called me to do, ministering as God has called me to minister, serving as God has called me to serve, studying the Word of God as God has called me to study the Word of God, praying like He's called me to pray, doing all the things that the Word of God tells us that we should do. He says, I run not with uncertainty, but with certainty, because I know that because of my relationship with the Father, His grace gave me that opportunity to come to faith in Jesus Christ, who gave His life on the cross of Calvary for all of us. And those who choose to believe in Him receive the imperishable crown. Look, I got asked a question this week, and it's a good question. It's one that people debate all the time. Did Jesus die for everybody or just for those He knew were going to be saved? Look, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that He sent His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him would not perish but have everlasting life. Jesus died for everybody who's ever lived and everybody who ever will live, but only those who accept the sacrifice as His gift to us receive the imperishable crown. Now, Paul says, I run with certainty. Thus I fight. Another great sport that he talks about. Not as one who beats the air. He says, I'm not shadow boxing. He says, but I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. You know what he's talking about? He's saying, I live my life the way that Christ has called me to live my life, so that I'm not saying one thing to you guys and living my life another way. That was what the Pharisees did. That's what the Jewish religious leaders did. Paul says, I teach and I follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. How about you? Are you living your life in such a way that you will not become disqualified? Understand you can't lose your salvation. That's eternally secure. But what you can lose is your testimony, your ability to tell others. Think about that today. Be blessed. And I'll see you back here on Monday.